and welcome to a new episode of the Chill Talks podcast. Today's guest is John, artist name Leiko, also your middle name as you told me.
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce yourself a bit for the listeners?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it. So my name is John Leiko Torkelson, aka Leiko Beats. I am a producer and record collector and dad and human being here in Little Rock, Arkansas. I've been in Arkansas for about 5 years now. I started doing music again here in Arkansas. I first came to music in, I guess, the early 2000s, getting out of high school in 2004, which kind of dates me a little bit, I suppose. But, playing punk rock, playing music, playing, rock stuff, post-rock stuff in the early 2000s up to, about 2010. And then I took a break for a number of years, just to, I guess, figure out life, be an adult, quote unquote. And then, it really, that really, I think, took a toll on my mental health after a time, not doing any music, not doing anything creative. And so as part of me trying to get healthy again,
so it's like really rooted into, how do I say, your life. So
yeah.
After making a break with music, you really felt that something is wrong. Did I just get that right?
Yes. I guess that's the other, I suppose, part of my story is I've been sober now for 7 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And part of getting sober was, getting back into music. And so that was really a powerful thing for me, and a really healing thing for me. And I know that I'm a more, I guess, at peace person now, having done music again, having been able to release songs and, get into this community. It's been really, really, really powerful for me. So that's the whole community has been part of that, for me. And so, it's been really, really, really good stuff to get back into it again.
Yeah, I can really understand the struggle. Also, have a kind of similar background. When specifically switched to making chill beats. Before I was in the techno scene, DJing, organizing events and everything. And obviously that was not a super sober time. It was super wild. You get like out every weekend, drink a lot, and get like really messed up. And also for me, it's pretty funny. That was this similarity to your story, that the switch into this new relaxed music genre and also the creative part really helped a lot. It was like pretty big help. On the one side, just to realize that, I'm sober now, I'm doing beats, and look how fast the workflow instantly started to be. And one of the biggest fears that I had, because I was just stupid, was to assume that the creativity will go away when you're making art sober, but it's the total opposite way. What I experienced on that, have you experienced something likewise, or how was it with you?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think a lot of us musicians or artists or creative people, I think a lot of our idols were very destructive, right? And so as we're trying to emulate our idols and try to get some of that that secret sauce, I think, at least for me, I did think that that was part of it. Drugs and alcohol were a part of the creative process. And yeah, it has that's funny that you talk about the workflow. I mean, I've released quite a few songs in the past year and a half, way more than I ever thought. When I first got this iPad again, and started to, I do most of my kind of sketching and everything on the iPad. At first I said, I want to do an EP. I want to make a 3-4 song EP. I have all these records. I want to do that. And the workflow is just so fast, but also, I'm so much faster and more
focused
with it, right? Yeah, focused. That it was really just eye-opening to be able to finish the song, to finish the thing, to do the thing. And I've thought about that a lot. I was always so worried about making something perfect, and so worried about this idea of perfection. And once I got past that, and I think that just comes with age and maybe sobriety as well, but once I got past that, the idea of being perfect and instead switched to, I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to get better, I'm trying to make these things better every time I sit down to do it. That just really made it so much more fun again. I didn't have the same kind of stress that I had when, and I think, and that's a digression, but I think the way music is now is the way music is released, the way people consume music is so much different now than it was in the early 2000s, that it's much more freeing, it seems now, it's just so much easier. Everything is just so much easier than it was.
Yes. You don't need like a super expensive recording studio to go in as a band. Okay, obviously as a band you still need a recording studio just to get like all the instrumentalization down. But let's say for a majority of music makers right now, we have people making beat and singing the vocals or rapping something on the beat, or also we have so many fantastic methods to even create a full rock song just in your DHW and then lay down some vocal, and you can fully bring that into a garage.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's I use Koala Sampler. That's my main kind of I mean, it pretty much is a DAW now, but that's where I do most of my tracking. That's where I do most of my manipulation of sounds. And then I'll bounce that down into, I use Zen Beats on the iPad as well, but that's a pretty, standard DAW. And then I'll bring it into that. And then that's where we'll mix and we'll add effects and we'll, do more stuff there. But Koala Sampler is just so incredibly powerful. I remember, looking at groove boxes recently, trying to get back into music and seeing how much they've progressed. But yeah, Koala Sampler is truly kind of what I wanted in my head, back in 2006 or whatever. These groove boxes were so hard to get into. At least it was for me, digging through menus and clicking through, the buttons on the little screen. And it was just it just didn't seem fun and intuitive. But now there are so many apps and so many things out there that make it so intuitive and make it so easy and make it so hands-on, with all the different user interfaces. It just made it so easy. It just made it so easy. So I was really, really thrilled when I first discovered Koala and was able to really get into it. So that's my main my main kind of workhorse is Koala Sampler for what I do.
Interesting. I never heard of this one. Is it something like an MPC
It is
emulator?
my iPad's in the other room, but yeah, it's a sampler. It has a step sequencer set up. It has a really interesting bank of, well, two banks really of effects that you can play with, and it has a lot of support from its maker.
Okay.
And so it's getting updated. There's a real big community with Koala Sampler. I just can't say enough good things about it. It's just a really, really cool program. There's tons of cool programs.
And you can do
iOS, but
you can do the full beat on an iPad. So you use different apps.
Yep.
And
so
Koala Sampler for the main creative processing, and then you load it in for a mix down and the effects, right?
Yep.
That's super interesting.
I'm trying to not kind of get stuck in one workflow. So I'm really trying to make an effort in the new year to kind of try to make things in different ways, so I'm trying to actually kind of pull back from Koala a little bit and start to get into some other stuff, just to not sound the same all the time.
That's super important for if you're always repeating like the same process over and over again. That's what happened to me also when I forced myself into a break after realizing that I did so many beats in like a short time that they start to get like super similar drum patterns, that the effect processing on the different melodies and everything sounds super similar to each other. On the one part, for the beats that we are making that are for chill out and more background kind of music, it's not even a bad thing. But for you yourself as an artist, it's absolutely not fulfilling making like let's say the same beat over and over again with a slightly different melody.
Sure.
And I would say that that's a good moment for me to play your new release, Alpine Dawn. Let me play that real quick, and then I will ask you some questions about that,
Awesome.
I guess. Wow, this is for sure something very special. I instantly recognized different things that really stand out from, let's say, standard chill beats, and it's pretty cool to have yet another artist here on the podcast that is doing things differently. But I don't want to cook up that topic again. We talked in the last 3 episodes about how most lo-fi beats that you hear sound all the same. But like this super long build up, and how the drums are grooving in the background, but they are not here yet. It really has this soundtrack kind of vibe when it's building up to a really epic movie scene. And then, yeah, the drop was amazing.
Well,
Something
thank you.
completely new. Yeah. And
Yeah. And a lot of that is Wolf Point, right? And I think that's what I really, really enjoy collaborating with other artists. I think that's the most fun part of all of this. And so for this track really the driving force was Wolf Point for this track. It was really their vision. So I contributed mostly drums for this track, and then they sent a fairly finished track, a good idea of what's going on, and then I sat with it a little bit, put some drum sounds together, and sent them back to them, and then they arranged it, sent it back to me. So really, a lot of that is them, and so I want to give the majority of the credit, and the majority of the arranging credit, to Wolf Point for that one. I do really enjoy the business side of things and the relationship building side of things too. So I think that's kind of something that I bring to the collaboration table, I suppose, is I like talking to people. I like talking to labels. I like working with labels. And so, with that, I'm really happy that I'm able to help get more people involved with releasing on labels, labels like Oblong Square and Soothing Soundwave. Post Lo-Fi Records was the one that released Alpine Dawn, and their Grungnick and Lost Tribe. That's a really, really awesome new label that's putting out some really cool stuff. So I think the relationship and the community aspect of all of this is really the most exciting part for me.
Yeah. And I think it's super important for you, if you're in the art industry, let's say, to really find something that you enjoy doing. And I have the same thought on collaborations. It's so great to be able to connect with new producers, new artists so fast. And actually, around every corner, I just I already told you that, like, my biggest issue, or when it comes to producing beats, is writing and composing my own melodies. Last week I had a super intelligent idea. There's this Hot or Not game on SubmitHub, you probably know it. And there's a section called Piano Only.
Oh.
It's an infinite source of super talented piano players that you can just type in some super kind words if you like the song. But I really have to say, in this category, every song is so good.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm like, sometimes when I really feel the style and the emotions brought over in the piano playing, I just send the feedback, hey, this is totally amazing. I'm making beats and would love to have something from you play to flip into a beat. And if you're interested, hit me up, because you have this one bar that you can click so the people can actually reply to you. And that's such a game changer. It's fantastic how many new stuff I'm learning, like, just within the last month, out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's just the amount of talent in the world and the amount of talent that's accessible to all of us now is just incredible. It's just so easy to send tracks. It's so easy to communicate with people. And so when I really got into the community aspect was really when, I guess the reach of my stuff really took off, and people, started to pay a little more attention, and the streams went up, and that's not what it's about, but it feels good, right? So you get some dopamine out of it. But it really was because of the collaborations that I did and I continue to do, and that's, I think the next 4 or 5 tracks that are coming out are all collaborations again. Cause that's just the easiest, like you said, it's the most fun, and it allows you to get new sounds in your stuff that you wouldn't come up with on your own, just because that's, everyone is different.
Last year, like in the year 2024, I did like 95% of all the releases were collaborations. And it's kind of interesting. I got so used to this that I just recently like finished 2 beats on my own. But it felt kind of weird after get used to work with other artists. And it really gives you this kind of band-like feeling to not have to do all the songs alone. That's also what I meant with the workflow early in this podcast. Also in connection with the Sober Up, there I meant that being focused really helps you to finish beats. But sometimes you get at a point where you're working on a song and it's actually done, but it doesn't sound done. You have like all the elements, the build up, the mixing is done, even the mastering is done, but there's like a little element is missing, and you instantly know it when you're listening to the track. And that's how I also end up sending nearly finished song out to others, just to get get on it with like completely fresh ears and like a new mind. And sometimes people flipped it in an amazing piece that sounds completely different, but still was based on this, actually finished song that doesn't feel finished. If you understand. Kind of weird explanation.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun when folks will, send the full stems and you're able to really hear the individual parts, and you can really understand what they're trying to do, and then and then to have the trust of the other person to cut it all up and chop it up and change it. I'm working on a track right now with a collaborator that I think is going to be a lot different than the thing that they originally sent. In a good way, hopefully. But we'll work on it together. We'll figure it out together. So,
and I would even say it's like a misunderstanding of the vision instead of an understanding, because you take something and maybe you get like the idea completely different, then you switch up so much stuff and make it a super unique piece. And there was one thing I want to ask you, but kind of brain freeze right now. So sorry, I just completely black out.
That's okay. Well, what I think something that I wanted to talk about was just the idea of, this space is so big. The chill hop lo-fi beats scene is so big that it's really there. I know it can feel really hard to get into for new folks, for people that are just kind of getting into the scene. And so, what I would say to newer folks that are just starting to release music, I've had newer folks, because I was new not too long ago. I still feel very new to the scene, but it can feel scary to reach out to people at first to ask about collaborations or to ask about playlists or ask about this. And I think the number one thing is that if you don't put your music out there and you don't put yourself out there a little bit, no one's going to hear you because they don't know that you're there, you know? So it's not a bad thing to reach out to people via Instagram or email or whatever the app is, but you know, just talking to other people and getting involved in the scene. You know, there's so many labels that do compilations. I think compilations are a great way for younger folks to get into the mix. They were really, really important for me. They're still really important for me.
By just DMing artists, I would say in our niche, it's super chill because all the artists are super chill. I know, like, from other music scenes where it's completely the opposite. And a lot of people are also kind of gatekeeping their contacts and this and that. But like with lo-fi, it's very, very open-minded community. But on the other side, there are like some super big names of YouTube channels and labels that you have nearly no chance to get into it, even if you're like 5 years in the scene or something. But this always will be existing. It's the same with every new music that comes up. Back in the days, the same with rock music. When it was totally new, it took maybe 5 years to get like big players out there and big record labels, and then it was hard to reach out to them. What's also super interesting is in our modern days, a lot of this combined music style, new genres come up. I mean, lo-fi hip-hop is not an old music genre out there. It's it's quite new. It's, I guess, when was it? After 2010?
Yeah, we could say around there, you know.
Yeah, probably here for around 15 years. And I had it on the first podcast with Cody that also the whole chill beat community is making their own paths. There are so many doing specific covers of like pop songs, or a community doing specific lo-fi chill covers of gaming soundtracks. Then the originals, the one that do original music, are also super splitted up. The one that doing a jazzy type of beat, the ones that doing something super smooth that you can really have it playing and taking a nap. You cannot do that with like every single beat that is called lo-fi chill beat. Also, not every beat is really suitable for having in the background and study to it. Sometimes what I really enjoy is having chill beats while driving the car. It makes me super patient and I scream less at other drivers, you know? It's okay, yeah, chill. Instead of, let's say, you're listening to like some heavy rock music and the one is like cutting your car and you're like shouting at them. And with lo-fi, it's kind of, you get in a completely different vibe.
Yeah, it is very different. Everyone. I think I've only run into one unfriendly person in the scene. You know, everyone else that I've talked to has been very, 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 very friendly, very, very open about how to move forward. You know, and yes, you're absolutely right. There are lots of labels and lots of playlists and stuff that they kind of have their set stuff figured out and they're just going to do their thing. But then it's up to us, it's up to everyone else to do their own labels, to do their own playlists, to do their, you know, and just to keep, like, you can't be discouraged. You know, I think at first everyone gets discouraged getting rejection letters and getting, you know, rejection emails from labels and compilations and this and that. And it's just, there's just so many opportunities that you can just keep going. You don't have to stay upset that you didn't get on that compilation or whatever it is. And it's easier said than done, right?
And I now remember what I wanted to talk about before, when I had this quick blackout, about the whole label thing. It's really interesting because I have I shifted my point of view when start doing beats. I was totally concentrated on sending every beat that I made out to labels, and obviously the first beats wasn't good at all, and you get rejected. That's totally normal. After producing for like 1.5 years, and most of the time I daily sat down, started a beat. If it was good, I finished it. If not, I just like deleted it completely and started over the next day. And after being at a point where you can send it out to 10 labels and 5 would release it, I really came to the conclusion that I don't want to release with labels anymore.
Yeah.
Or for the most part of time. For a compilation album, it's great. And last year I released a ton with labels. But somehow for this year, I want to make at least 50% of the releases completely independent. Only because you have this great community of playlisters, music enthusiasts, and everything. And what I catched myself doing is making a song, send it to a label, and then sit back too much, because there was always this kind of voice in my head, like, you gave the song to a label, they take 50% out of your whole work, so it's their job to promote it. And as long it's not a super big major label that has got their promotion game set up perfectly, they will not do that. That probably a playlist that gives the track overall like a few thousand of clicks over 6 months or something, and then then it's done. And I realized that when I self-release tracks, I go active, write to playlist curators, submit it here and there. Obviously end up spending money on Submit Hub or Facebook ads. But back in the day, the backflowing revenue is way higher. And obviously it's a lot of more work, but therefore kind of the appreciation of your own work is bigger, in my opinion. And you don't just let it slide. It's like giving something nice away and then forget about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's,
probably a totally personal stuff, personal point of view, but for me it's definitely like that.
I think it's the ecosystem of chill hop, right? You have these labels that want to and need to release things because that's what they're there for. But it's up to you as the artist to make sure the label is going to do what they are supposed to do, or so it's like, so I look at labels like I still know that I need to do the work to promote the song, right? Or the release. The label helps, in my opinion, the label helps with kind of social credit, right? It's like, okay, I know that this thing came out on Soothing Soundwave. I know that Soothing Soundwave has...
It's fun. I released on their, I guess, 2 tracks with them.
Yeah. They're really nice people. They have their their style. They release a lot of stuff. They're really, I really like them because they do work with a lot of newer folks and help people kind of come up. But it's like, so it's like when I see stuff released on Soothing Soundwave as a playlist person, as a curator, I can say, okay, I know that this is of a certain quality that, I can listen to it, and I know that it's going to
be good.
It's going to be polished. It's going to be complete. It's going, so I think releasing some stuff on labels helps you to kind of legitimize yourself as an artist. But I agree with you, and I'm kind of in the same boat. The releases that you do independently, maybe you have a little more, well, you do have a more ownership, but yeah, I think I work a little harder for the independent releases. And I also plan to do more independent stuff in the coming year. And it gives you a little more control. But at the end of the day, the artist, I think, you have to, as the artist, have to promote your own song. You can't expect a label to do it. It's your song. If you believe in it and you want people to hear it, you have to do the work to get it out there.
That's totally true. And I don't know why it's like that. It's just like something in the back of my head that switches after giving a song away, and also like 50% of the rights.
Sure.
Also the same thing when you're releasing something by yourself, and then you get that's a big thing, get claimed on TikTok because you make the promo video not through the app and not selecting it from their sound bank. They just mute your track. That happened to me a lot.
It's
when
frustrating.
promoting the one album that I released with Patriotic Records, and then it kind of killed my motivation for doing more of those videos. And yeah, I have to say, you're totally right with this. It gives your work more credibility when releasing with a label. I'm just finished an album where I also asked around a few people that I want to have as a collab on it. Everyone said, yeah, cool, let's do that. Nobody asks about the label or something. But it's funny, there was one person, and we first chatted a bit about that. And I was like, yeah, I want to promote this label totally independent from my own pocket. I mean, at the end of the day, if the label is not promoting it and I want to have my album promoted in a good way, and you take $300-400, put it in Facebook ads, you will get at least, especially when collaborating, and also split with the 50% with the collaborator. There's not a label on top of it, and it doesn't feel as bad as spending so much money and then the revenue goes on 50% to someone else. And this person, I don't want to say names or something, but was like, yeah, nah, in this case I won't do it. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'm totally fine with this. But it was the first time I heard something like that, and it was a little bit of shock reaction, okay, yeah, then not. Let me ask someone else. But yeah, totally see that point of making your music more legit. But in the end of the day, I would say 90% of listeners, especially in this category of music, don't really care about where it's released on.
No, it's our own, it's like we're doing this for ourselves, right? So we it's up to us to frame what is going to make it feel successful to us, as the artist. And so, but you're right, for a lot of people it is background music. So I look at it am I getting better? Like, am I getting better as a musician? Am I releasing with people that I think are doing cool things and doing interesting things? Am I getting good feedback? Are people reaching out about, being on a podcast? Are people reaching out about, wanting to collab more? That's, to me, that means that I'm being successful, right?
Yeah.
If more people want to interact with me, that to me means that I'm doing something right.
Yeah, success is always your own definition of it. And not everybody has the same goal set when it's come down to music.
Yeah.
For me, it's also like a little bit of discipline and character building progress behind that I'm super fascinated with. And your thread post about books was super interesting because I really love to read books to like grow as a person, and I can see parallels that make me grow as an artist by just growing as an individual, like having more knowledge or understanding of the world. Also, I really like philosophic books or like this mindset kind of books that just tells you, yeah, wake up earlier and go to the gym, you lazy ass.
Sure.
But it really shows in the creative process as well. Like, yeah, it's getting late. Should I now turn off the computer, or should I finish the beat so I can get back tomorrow morning for the mix down? Or just like out of laziness, quit mid-session, and the next day you're not in the same, let's say, not in the same mood, and then you start redoing the whole beat till it sounds totally garbage, and you just delete it.
Yep.
That's why, in my belief, is it doesn't matter what kind of music you're doing. The song should be finished within one session, but without mixing and without mastering, obviously. But the song should be done within one session, and the best part is when you're creating a song fast. In my opinion, that's the best work. As at the beginning of making beats, I set myself a 1 hour rule. If I have a beat that is like structured and arranged and all the elements sits in the beat within 1 hour, then it's a good beat. When I still like tweaking the sound of the snare, hi-hat, whatever, after 4 hours into the creative process, it's just super mid. Then you can also delete it and start over again. Nobody wants to hear a mid beat, you know?
Yeah. I love the idea of putting creative constraints on yourself, right? Or like giving yourself putting a framework in place, right? I think that was something for me, earlier in life with music was it felt scary to say, okay, I'm going to make this song. I have all the sounds in the world that I can use. Like, I'm going to try to make something good. Whereas now I can say, I'm going to give myself an hour to do this, or I'm making a song. I'm working on a track for a compilation album that has an underwater summertime vibe or whatever. And so it kind of gives you a path to go down when trying to be creative. It kind of takes some of that unknown away, at least for me. So that's been very helpful to kind of change the way that I'm approaching making music.
Yeah, and limitations are super important to be even more creative. Let's say you limit yourself to one sample pack for drums, and the sound is not quite there where you really have the vision. You just take it and you shape it and give it some effects and everything till it sounds for your vision perfect. Instead of like same as doom scrolling on Instagram, you're just like doom scrolling through Splice searching for the perfect kick. It totally kills the creative progress.
Yeah, and I think at least for me, you know, I've had conversations with other folks, other friends about just the idea of when I first got into Koala, for example, I kind of made a point to not sit and watch a terrible amount of tutorials.
Yeah.
And watch other people's workflows. You know, I think now with YouTube and now with everything being the way it is, it's very, very easy to watch someone else do something and then kind of try to recreate that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why we have a lot of stuff that sounds the same, or in you know, twinkly emo, Midwest emo land, a lot of that stuff sounds the same because I think a lot of people watch the same tutorials and learn how to do things the same way. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think that, you know, to set yourself apart, I think giving yourself limitations and like you said, you know, saying I'm only going to use this pack for this, or I'm going to try to make a beat out of these 3 records, you know. I think that really sets you apart from the people that are, you know, putting chords down in Fruity Loops and just kind of doing that workflow that you see over and over and over again.
Yeah. Also, when approaching making an EP or an album, that's so helpful to say, I take these 3 packs, one for the drums, one for the percussion, and maybe one for the Foley sounds. And just stick with that for the entire album will make also the whole production way more glued together. You don't need to have a new snare on every beat. Totally not. Imagine a rock band would like change the drum, like screw the snare away and put another snare on stage while a live concert. No, it's always the same drum. Yeah, you can put some effects on it and then it sounds different. I mean, maybe the guitar player has 4 guitars for the stage, but in the end of the day, it's 4 for, let's say they played 20 songs.
Sure.
It's not 20 guitars for 20 songs, and it's so unnecessary to have such a big option.
Yeah, it's almost it's too hard. It's like, you know, sitting down to watch something on TV and there's just too much content and you end up scrolling for an hour instead of watching something. So it's been really good for me as a creative person to put some limitations on myself and to just do it every day, right? Or try to do it every day.
Yeah.
Also, you know, with having a son and being a husband and having a job and all that stuff, I don't have the hours and hours of time that I once did to do this anymore. And so putting those constraints on it allows me to finish things and get things out so that you can go, you know, so that you have something to put out there. It's so easy to get things out there now that
it is.
There's no reason not to release things, you know?
Yeah. I totally agree on that point, and it's very interesting. A lot of other lo-fi producers that I get to know over the last 2 years have so different backgrounds, and nearly no one is doing this kind of music with a full-time producer wish. On the other side, I know a lot of producers as well that really want to do that, or some that already doing that full time, but not just with making beats, also with, let's say, sync licensing for advertisement and all that stuff. But yeah, kind of met students on my first collaborations that like nearly all of the collaborators were students, and it was super funny to me because I'm doing like a normal job as an electrician, and there are this people that are getting highly educated but still spending time to make some beats, and sometimes they hit you up with now I can't do like a song together for the next some months. I have to learn for exams and stuff. That's pretty funny. And I don't know what it is about this specific lo-fi beats that attract so many people to this. Meanwhile, you see it on TV advertisement clips. You can hear lo-fi, and sometimes on like businesses for cars or whatever are using chill beats as their sound. And it's super interesting to me because on the one side, the pop music is getting faster and faster and faster and more energetic, and the chill music is getting smoother and smoother and smoother on the other side. It is. And it's super interesting times we're living in. I mean, imagine growing up 50 years ago with that type of music that was in the zeitgeist there.
Very, very different. I mean, you know, growing up, I was lucky enough to get turned on to the Beastie Boys really early. And so Check Your Head was one of the, you know, the things that really, I guess, turned me on to sample-based music, sample-based hip-hop. And, you know, you can, I mean, I would certainly say that the Beastie Boys and what they did for production really kind of somewhat laid the groundwork for what we do now, you know, just, and other, of course, other people like Dilla and Nujabes and all these folks. But yeah, it's just so different now. It's just, and like you said, the pop music is getting faster and faster.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting that we're seeing like drum and bass and jungle come back. And more young people are listening to that, which is great. But yeah, it's, I don't think we can possibly say what things are going to sound like in 10 years. But certainly back in the 90s or the 80s, I don't think anyone would have thought that this is what we would be doing music-wise now, you know?
It's interesting. I heard this super weird conspiracy theory on a podcast that the worse the economic system of a country gets, or like in the world, the faster the pop music becomes.
Sure. Yeah, I think that there's I think you have to look at that, right? I think there's no way to not look at the music and the culture being intertwined, you know? And so yeah, when things are getting, it would be fun to do some real research and look at and look at different countries and kind of line up what was getting released. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, also like the music that is getting pushed out to the listeners. It always, I always have this soundtrack from the Lego movie in my.
Oh, sure.
Like everything is awesome. Nothing was awesome, but like all the people are singing super happy pop songs, and yeah, that's so weird.
Yep. Yeah, it's we can only control ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So we can keep doing what we're doing and try to create our own community, you know, because I don't know what's going on in in the world at large, but
yeah, me neither. No time for that when making beats the whole day.
That's right.
And still have to do your job, and in your situation also being a husband and a father.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time management involved in that. But I'm pretty sure that music will always give back more than it takes from you if you're doing it with passion. It takes like time, it takes nerves, it takes money for new plugins. but it gives so much inner peace back somehow. Like
Oh, absolutely.
no matter what situation you're in, if you're happy, if you're sad, especially if you're sad, just like to sit down and get into this meditative state of the creation, and you can really like let that emotions flow out of you into your production. And I would say that's the best songs are all made with like really heavy emotions processed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been this past year has been really hard for me, or very changing for me. You know, just doing a lot of work internally. You know, doing a lot of self-reflection, trying to get better as a person. You know, learning about myself, learning about my place in the world. So I don't think I would be in the same place I am now if I hadn't have started making music again. So it's been really, really, really good and really, really powerful. To have the community too, you know, people reaching out when I'm feeling down, you know, people that I've never even met in person. People from across the ocean, you know. So that was just really, really cool that people that I met in the community have been just so cool, so chill, I guess, you know.
I can totally agree on this point. I met a lot of people in this community that are like really become a part of my life, even though I never met them in person.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's also like one of my thoughts behind this podcast is just to really talk to the artists like one-to-one, face-to-face, and really get to know more about the people. We haven't collaborated yet. That's funny. It's like the first time as a podcast guest. Yeah. So far, that's the fourth podcast anyway. I just started, but before I have collaborated with all of the artists that were here as guests, and then it's super interesting to just like to know more about the person behind that.
Yeah.
And now it's also interesting to see how our collaboration will turn out, because we met each other now in front of this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that will be. This will be, because we are going to work on a tune together. And this will actually also be the first time that I've talked and met with the person before I sent any music around as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to work on some melodic stuff this weekend.
Great. And yeah, I would say we're perfect in time for my last famous question. You probably know it. If you want to share some life advice for the listeners, don't have to be music related.
I think my number one life advice would be, when there's change happening to you and to your life, to lean into the change. Don't try to fight the change. I think the only constant is change. That's what I say to myself a lot, and I say to other people too. So to think that you can stop change from happening, I don't think is really, at least for myself, that's where a lot of my own suffering comes from, is trying to stop change from happening. So leaning into the change and knowing that everything changes all the time, and even something changes badly now, that doesn't mean it can't change for the good later. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's true. So just knowing that change will keep changing, that the world will keep changing, and your life will keep changing. I think that's the number one thing, is to just lean into the change.
Mm-hmm.
It has saved me a lot of suffering in the past year.
And there's absolutely no reason to like hold on to past stuff, like also, yeah, even if you're as an artist, to get back on the music thing for quick, even if you feel like changing the style of your production, just let it happen. If your soul screams for it, then do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's something else, I don't think, as a lo-fi person or a chill hop person, releasing other genres, I think, is important too. I have a dub reggae remix that I did with some folks coming out this month that'll be really, really cool. And getting outside your comfort zone, I think, is really important too.
Oh, yeah.
Both in music and in life, right?
Yeah, I can't agree more on this, especially in life. No matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
Great. And I'm looking forward for this dub reggae.
Yeah, it's coming out the 14th, on Green Key Records.
Great. Yeah, I will see it in Instagram for sure.
Yep.
Great. Then thanks for being here and share your story and share your learnings, also the point of views.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And I say now goodbye to the listeners.